Hello, our audience. Today we have an amazing guest. His name is George Carver. He's a tech-savvy marketeer, organic sales and marketing expert, data-driven growth catalyst. Hello, George. How are you doing?
Hey, all good. Thank you. So far, so good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I love seeing you guests, and you have a lot of like sales background, and you're the guy we were looking for, to be honest. Just to connect
Yep.
this marketing and sales things, into one big successful story.
Nice to hear, Anton.
So,
Well, I'm happy to be on your podcast. Thanks for
happy
inviting
to
me.
see
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
happy to be.
So let's start from the beginning. It's a traditional question. We usually ask people about their experience, a lot of things changed past 3 years, but you have a lot of more experience than that. So how did you get involved in the world of sales and marketing, and what inspired you to specialize in these organic strategies? With over a decade of experience, how have you seen the landscape of B2B marketing evolve? Like, what's changed? What was the most significant changes for you? Because we ask this question every guest, and everyone has a different answer.
That's actually a very interesting twist because yeah, like I started over 10 years ago in like conventional marketing. So I was basically a very happy person. I graduated from the uni, and after failing to find basically like an internship in some, I don't know, like very serious conventional formal company, I came across a very interesting position. I did not yet understand what that was, fully. But basically, it was a junior marketing specialist in a transnational company, and that's how I became the Jameson Irish whiskey brand ambassador in Ukraine. And after almost 2 years, which honestly are a bit fuzzy, I don't remember all of it. But it was an amazing journey, and jokes aside, it was an amazing school that got me interested into marketing, into BTL, off-trade events, a lot of stuff like that, because basically we're organizing a lot of stuff for the brand, not only this one, but like a lot of brands for the portfolio. And obviously a lot of challenges, because like with big projects, comes big responsibility and a lot of cross-functional stuff, risk management changes, last minute stuff. So I mean, like, I guess everyone in offline marketing hear me, they get that part. So basically I started there, and like a part of the training and initial onboarding was digital marketing. And back then it was mostly like, why are you making a profile on Facebook? Like, are people using it? Like, what? So it was that beautiful time when basically online lead generation was not yet a thing, and like companies or like serious brands doing probably PPC ads was pretty rare in the region and like in the industry. So it was more about brand awareness and like digital presence and catering to a younger audience of like tech savvy early adopters. Like the iPhones were all the rage and all of that. So basically people started to get online a lot more, and brands had to be present. So that's how I got in the mix with digital initially, and it was a big part of my life, my responsibilities since then. And like fast forward to 2023. So in terms of specifically B2B and maybe organic a little bit marketing, what I see is basically there was a huge shift. I mean, everybody feels it. Everybody, I guess, knows what I'm talking about, from like conventional, like email, radio, TV, advertising, or like your typical acquisition channels, towards obviously going digital. And there were a lot of things going for that, making a lot of sense. I mean, especially the price, the flexibility, the targeting. I mean, like a lot of amazing things have happened. But also a lot of things remained, for example, like events, trade shows, expos. So for specifically for B2B companies, B2B brands, yes, that's one of the main, for most of them at least, main like lead sources, where they do their prospecting, where they do their networking, where they do their brand awareness and whatnot. As I work with startups, with companies who are yet like establishing their presence and like finding their voice, their proposition, their audience, sometimes I see that usually like these classical marketing things like going to events, to expos, are like their go-to modus operandi. It's like, like the first thing that pops up in like their heads, like, okay, we have to go to industry events, we have to be present. And with that comes like your first struggle as the CMO or head of marketing, or anyone joining the marketing team of that like aspiring brand, or unicorn to be, because you start working in an environment where you have to mix like offline online advertising, um, where you have to learn how to navigate both of those spheres, which is sometimes each of them is challenging on their own, but like combining them like is a whole game on its own. But in terms of like more senior or strategical challenges, it all comes down to ROI and tracking, because obviously, like for people who work with digital, who were born with this, like born this time as professionals, they entered the market where everything is trackable, or at least is trying to be quantifiable, understandable. Like basically we all have dashboards. I mean, like even I have some spreadsheets for my family, so
Yeah, there is like
it's like
analytics available. It's not like an offline thing. Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. Yeah. And basically that's good. But when you sort of have to reverse engineer it and like, okay, we're going to an event or an expo, how do we actually track our conversions there? That's where sometimes people get a bit fuzzy, to say the least, in terms of like, okay, this is interesting. So like, and things like your share of voice, your share of mentions, a lot of things are, they start popping up, and you have to know them. You have to know how to work with that. You have to educate even sometimes your stakeholders, how that ties in your marketing mix and your strategy and all of that. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is like obviously the main thing that's happened is like this digital breakthrough, and like we're all struggling with AI and all that stuff, right? But another thing that's happened is basically like a really like head-to-head race between online and offline, and like what's there to stay and what's still effective, and what probably needs to be somehow either changed, upscaled, redefined in the conventional marketing space, or what needs to go. And basically for modern marketing leaders, that might be, in my point of view at least, the main challenge and the main change in the B2B sphere specifically.
It's a very good answer, because, and first of all, I wanted to mention, as you started as a junior marketer, I hear these stories a lot, to be honest. I just seen a post on Glassdoor where a guy just said, I was promoted to a B2B marketing director of a B2B company, B2B SaaS company. What do I do, guys? I don't know what to do. Like, and it happens very often. Like people with some set of skills, they go to marketing and they're successful in marketing, but when they just at the beginning of this path, they might now not know exactly what they do, but they figure it out. Everything eventually uh, comes to a great end. But anyway, and about events, yeah, like we had a little break during COVID, right? Probably 3 years without events, 2 or 3 years, and now it's on again. Last year it wasn't that, like, for example, our company, we participated probably in about 10 events last year and 10 events this year. And this year is much more effective because we see more and more people are coming back to the events. And yeah, it's always a problem to track your results. And a lot of conferences have this, QR scanners and things like that. So it's kind of helpful. For example, it was kind of good, organized in a good way at MAU Vegas this year. I want just to give them shout out. They organized this thing really well. We scanned every person. And after that, we went deeper to a conversation and we realized, all right, this is like an impression. Like when we scan the code, this is like an impression to us. Then we follow with the conversion, or we don't. Like we have a certain like conversion rate thing. Like we made it up basically, but yeah, it worked for us just to understand how good is it, like is it effective or not for us. And then probably in month we usually calculate like how many like leads we got, like did we make any money with these people, and then we come to an understanding, is this event successful or not, because there is a huge choice right now and you can't go everywhere because there are a lot of interesting conferences at this point after COVID especially. And this leads me to our
Definitely.
next question about analytics. And you mentioned it, so we have to discuss it. I don't think we discuss analytics enough. Yes, we all like work with Google Analytics. I don't know what you're working with. Adobe Analytics, some people do, like Google Tag Manager, any other type of tag manager, Hotjar, any other type of heat map. Maybe you have some interesting insights for us, because when I speak to different marketeers, I see that they have different approaches to analytics. I mean, to the, as you said, to the back engineering, to like, go back to do something with this data, make some interesting ideas out of it. Do you have like a maybe interesting approach? How do you work with all these things, with all these services? How do you handle them? Like, what's your flow with it?
Thanks. That's a very good question, actually. To be honest, with every project, or with every brand, with every company, it's a bit different, because like, I mean, if they're basically, if they're only organic focused, that's one story, because obviously you use more like different traffic sources, and you may even use Google Search Console or Ahrefs or SEMrush or other SEO tools or monitoring tools more often than even your Google Analytics. You might open it twice a month. Or if it's really aggressive PPC advertising, then yeah, but you're probably living in it and in your ads manager accounts or something like that. So it is quite different. Like if we're looking for like tips and tricks here, or like a life hack that I'd have to offer here, I mean, I really don't want to like try to mentor my colleagues, because they obviously know their stuff maybe even better than me. But like the way I do stuff is I try to avoid like this analysis paralysis thing, because typically when I come in a project, there might be the situation when you have like this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reports, some crazy dashboards built who knows where, why, and for what reason. So like tons of data is flowing your way, and honestly it's really easy to get overwhelmed. Like if people include like some AI tracking stuff into the mix, okay, this gets insane and crazy really fast, really often. So and typically my approach to that is, the reason behind it is because the need and the target audience, so it's like an internal marketing product, it's not defined. So basically you're getting too much data because you're not really sure what you need and for what reason, to whom you want to present it, and how to calculate it. So that's why typically I try to dumb it down, to narrow it down to very simple things first, and like build it from the ground up as much as possible with actionable insights and all that. Well, right now actually is probably a good time to talk about analytics a little bit, because again, like with the release of Google Analytics 4, I've seen a lot of marketers complaining like, please bring back the seamless, beautiful interface of universal analytics, which was so easy to
Yeah, and
navigate.
also a lot of action has changed, right? Like it's like they redefined a lot of things. So, and you have to kind of learn. I had to finish a course on GA4 just because I didn't
Yes.
understand everything. Like I had to understand the update. I didn't expect it. I had to finish it. Yeah, it's actually very
Yeah,
difficult.
you actually have to take a course now. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, that sort of plays in with the thought I had about the events when you said about the QR codes. You see, like, well, from one point, we're getting these amazing tools, like amazing events, networking opportunities we would have never had like 5 or 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
But it's not seamless. I mean, like, I don't feel, like empowered by going to an event where I have to scan people, So I feel like, I'm doing paperwork, but like in modern days. So it's not that amazing feeling like, holy crap, like this is robots flying around, Back to the Future stuff, And I think that's what should inspire us as professionals, as marketers, is just like that we are in this amazing place with all these amazing possibilities, and we're utilizing them to deliver an amazing experience to other people. So with analytics, that's the same. Because like, to be honest, numbers are not amazing. So like, I mean, it's hard to build an engaging and interesting story around our conversion rate for the last quarter versus our expenses and our acquisition channels. You know, like you see a lot of people get really drowsy really fast. But I guess that's the part of the craft, you know, like
Yeah, exactly.
data.
This is why they got us, you know, to do this job, because it's
Yeah,
hard.
exactly. Yeah, like data storytelling, and basically based on numbers, based on data. That's probably like a craft on its own and a skill that we need to work on and develop. So in terms of again, like coming back to some sort of life hacks or anything. So for organic traffic, I think and organic events tracking, Google Tag Manager is basically like an invaluable tool. So you cannot get better than this. And it's great there for a lot of stuff. Obviously, like Google Analytics 4 is offering a lot of the things we were previously building in Google Tag Manager already coming out of the box, like tracking form submissions and better segmentations, yada, yada, yada. But you have to get there in a bit. Regardless, Google Tag Manager remains a very good tool when you have, for example, like a lean business that has a really vivid and dynamic tech stack. So if you're trying stuff out, if you're trying different ad channels, so basically if you need to swap pixels, if you need to change tracking codes, if you need to update the apps you're using or services you're using frequently because you're testing, you don't know what you need. Like for example, you're doing prospecting, you don't need, like, you don't know if you need Hunter, Lucia, ZoomInfo, or anything else. And that's why I think Google Tag Manager is a go-to tool just to have all your tracking there always, because like it's really easy to give into, you know, hard coding and, you know, like, yes, I'm going to input this in the header and it's going to live there forever. So it's really important to have that order and structure. And in terms of Hotjar, I'd say that's an amazing tool. If any of our colleagues or, you know, just curious people listening did not yet have the opportunity to try it, please do. They have an amazing free plan. I am not being paid for this advertising, but I really love this tool.
Unfortunately, we'll try though. We'll try and share. Maybe we'll try. Yeah,
to get something my way. Yeah. I get you. But anyway, they're really cool because they provide a very visual, understandable way of understanding how your above default content works, how your scrolls work, how your clicks. So like their heat mapping, it's just very digestible. It's very visual. It's very easy to share with the team. And I think that's, you know, that's what makes a tracking or an analytics service works. It's easy to install and it's easy to operate.
Yeah.
So I guess in a nutshell, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so about Google Analytics, yeah, it's really hard. Sometimes, you know, someone else shows me his Google Analytics and just asking me to help with something, to figure something out. And I just see that and I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on here, because the way I work, yeah, I have to build up from the ground my own thing. And then I have some key elements, as you mentioned, that I always watch. But when someone shows me his Google Analytics, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't get the logic here. But Hotjar, yeah, it gives you a lot of data. Sometimes I watch those, you know, when we have a new, for example, website release, something updated. After a month or two, I watch those recordings, you know, the action recordings, because it's really interesting sometimes, because you expect user to go this way or check this and that, but no, it's kind of something new information for you. And I just watch that as like a movie, you know, for like 30 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm getting it now. I'm getting it. We have to do a couple of edits here and there in order to make this more comfortable for every user. So it's very useful. So I want to make a pause on the marketing topic a little bit, because I've seen that you've been working with cross-functional teams, right?
Yep. That's right.
And this is so interesting, because first time I implemented a cross cross-functional team this year, and this is so useful. Sometimes right now when people tell me about their problems, like they can't figure out something goes slow, I'm like, and I'm like, oh, you need a cross-functional team there, because it's a thing, it's a task for a cross-functional team, not for 3 teams, but for one cross-functional team. So can you share some insights on how you successfully manage cross-functional teams and collaborated with what various stakeholders in the marketing campaign? Because I know it's kind of hard when you have basically a team from other teams, and you have to lead this team, and you have to let them do their main job, kind of, but you have a project, something. It's got to be an interesting project if you need a cross-functional team. I'm sorry. So can you share your experience, how you implement this? Because a lot of people don't know about this still, and I'm sure it's going to be very helpful.
Sure thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, cross-functional teams are probably all the rage right now. But I mean, like, in terms of like sort of best practices, I don't think I can, sort of give you like some amazing insights or something.
No, just how's your experience working in a team like that? Like any difficulties, like any insights? Because I mean, still a lot of people don't know how to use that.
Yeah, definitely. Like in terms of experience, yeah, a lot of fun situations happened there. For example, an unexpected, so to say, partnership was when we were closely working with the IT and product teams, because we were doing product marketing back there. And we were actually working on the product backlog to get it moving a little bit and to try and somehow prioritize and figure out like what would bring the most value, like which features are missed the most in a service as a service product. And what made this increasingly challenging and also fun is that we had a lot of user types, user groups, like several layers of internal users, external users. So like it was really an interesting landscape to navigate. And basically then what saved the day and helped us to wrap our heads around it was actually working with data, with intent clusterization. So we went back to our support tickets, because they were not really segmented in a way where you would know specifically what this request was about. So basically they were segmented, is this a bug, is this urgent, or is this something else? So we had to do a bit of spring cleaning there, make up a chart, clusterize the incoming requests, then prioritize them by user types, then by customer sizes, and then we would go back to our internal user teams, like our architects, to get their feedback on these issues, go to the QA, and basically within a week we created a roadmap that would deliver 3 times more value than we would if we would just follow the conventional route, like, okay, we're just hanging out with this, we're adding features for features sake.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of amazing feedback from customers saying like, dudes, no way, like we've been asking for 3 years. So yes, you are a bit slow, but this is amazing. You've done it. Like, it's so nice to be heard, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that led to an increase in advocacy, which surprisingly led to more contracts. Hello, organic, So that was like one case. And another is, just in terms of communication and processes. Because when you work with design, with HR, with sales, with prospecting, with PR, I know, pick whatever you want, with accounting, whoever you want. Yeah, it gets challenging. And I think in these cases, communication is key, because again, like, especially now when there are a lot of remote teams, like, you can have your accounting in CIS countries in one hemisphere, you can have your designer in, I don't know, Latin America, and like your backend developers pretending to be a penguin in Antarctica, and you never know if that's true or not. So, and basically when you're trying to communicate with all these different people, it's very important to, well, at least from my point of view, to be structured, be to the point where you're even, a bit blunt, So it is an issue, but like if people know you and they know you're not being personal, you're just trying to be very specific about what needs to be done and to avoid miscommunication. So they get used to that style of communication, and some of them even adopt it because it's effective.
It is. It is.
And I think
It is
that's the
probably,
most
yeah.
important.
Sorry. It's probably sometimes it's harder to manage this process, but it's even though it might be it might look hard, but it's still easier than create a whole channel of communication between 5 departments, for example. Like
Yeah,
effective
definitely.
and fast. You can
Maintain
take a
it.
person there, get a team leader, and they will do this project much faster because 5 people will communicate more effectively than, I don't know, a bunch of 100 people, like 5 divisions of your company. So this is why, yeah, there are some complications with cross-functional teams, obviously, but there are some rules and there are some insights already there. They're already there. You can read about that and you can just know them before you start. So I would advise anyone who has a project on the verge of something, if your teams tell you this is not my job and another team tells you, you know what, this is not my job too. So this is like a good example of a situation when you need a cross-functional team. I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's just great that you had this experience, and I just had this experience in my life this year, and I'd like to say that I'm amazed by its productivity.
I agree with you, and like probably one short note I'd make in terms of cross-functional teams is that when you have a lot of people from different walks of life, from different specialities, doing one thing, one product, one feature, one project, regardless, make sure you have someone who is accountable for it. Basically, like the guardian of your processes, of your Jira boards, of your Monday boards, whatever you're using, whatever, take your pick, but make sure you have that one person who is sort of like advocating the consistency, because if you don't have that, it might very easily lead to chaos.
Of course, and that's totally the why we had this solution, because we had like 3 departments working on one project and no one was responsible and everyone was responsible. So in the end of the day, no one was.
Yeah.
So in order to solve this thing, we had to create a cross-functional team, get a team leader who's responsible, and make him a temporary leader of the project. And we had to define, like, you spend 20% of your time on this project, you spend, I don't know, 50% of your time on this project. And in order to schedule their main work, I would say main field of work, whatever they do. So yeah, this is very important comment. You have to have someone accountable for the whole process, like for the whole big process. This is very important. All right, let's get back to marketing. I have one interesting question for you. So inside competition, sometimes I feel like some people are overusing their paid ads, like their paid channels, and with increasing emphasis on organic growth. How do you ensure that paid marketing strategies complement rather than overshadow organic efforts? Because I see people do that sometimes, and I feel like their organic channels are really bad because of that. Like they just like don't make them complement each other, and instead of that they just make and create an inside competition. How do you make sure that doesn't happen, and what do you do in order to make this whole make these two things effective with each other?
Thanks, Anton. That's a very good question, actually. And like in a nutshell, really quick, it would be just building healthy channels, healthy acquisition channels. So because for most people, paid media is basically like speed dating. So you get really fast where you need to go, and that's it. So unfortunately, if you build your paid media strategy like that, as soon as you stop feeding it resources that you have, you will you will feel like basically the stagnation coming in. And at that point, trying to establish an organic marketing strategy as like a safeguard or like a balancer to help you get over that slump, it won't help because that's a bit too late. So yes, those are not mutually exclusive, and ideally they need to complement each other. In a perfect world, organic should, from my point of view, utilize paid possibilities. Specifically, for example, if you're posting great content, if you're working on it, So it would make a lot of sense if you're making a lot of investment into it, into getting your thoughts and your expertise out there, to obviously pay for better distribution,
Yeah,
to
just
get
to
more
make it
insight.
seen, right?
Exactly, yes. You would get more data faster, which would probably make your content better in a shorter scope of time. But, if we talk specifically about content, like in terms of non-competition clauses, I would say that both organic and paid, they feed off data, your insights, your keywords, your funnels, your user stories, so all of that. Of course, they take and play different roles for each, but for example, you can get amazing insights from your paid campaigns in terms of keywords that are working or negative keywords that are not working, which could adjust in terms of your organic content strategy in terms of what keywords you're using, what audiences you're targeting with what specific queries, phrases, placements even. That's one thing, and vice versa. Basically your content, the way it's being discovered, as you said, like trying to predict user behavior sometimes is basically like an
Unfortunately,
effortless step.
things
Yeah,
changing too rapidly. Like you can't predict those things. We have to test and test. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, we had a case once when our platform was crashing, and we were reviewing recordings of, like, we knew specifically who the user who was crushing it, and we did not understand why. But then we understood, because the user had like 15 tabs open at the same time, which was just not understandable to us because we would not predict that behavior.
Yeah.
Bad for us. So yeah, it's just futile, I guess. So in terms of like getting organic and PPC to mix well, is probably to establish a strategy and use them as tools, not to establish two strategies that work separately from each other. So those need to be like your yin and yang, basically your parts of your marketing mix, your acquisition channels, and each needs to work differently. For example, for B2B, organic can be well, it might not be as effective as paid, of course, in the short term, but in general, I mean, if you do it well, if you have a good prospecting team, if you have a very well established email marketing, then you may have like 30 to 40% of your leads coming in from your organic efforts. It doesn't mean that they come for free. So that's like probably another like myth about organic. That's not free. So you should treat your content as a long-term investment, while your ads are short-term investment typically. So if you get all those things right, if you get the right attitude and the right stuff done, if you have the right hierarchy and probably the right structure within your ad accounts, within your SEO strategies, within your approaches, I think you'll do amazing things really, really fast, and you'll keep growing regardless of all the changes that may happen.
Yeah, and this is really great that you mentioned the exposure. Like, how can you help your organic content with paid ads? Because I still keep hearing this question. Like, what kind of ad should you create in order to create a lot of lead generation for B2B market? Like, what kind of ad should should I make or something? I'm like, do you think that someone will really like sign a contract with you at B2B, like another company, just because of an ad? Like, what kind of ad it should be? Like, no. So basically, yeah, you have to work on your image, you have to create content, you have to distribute your content. And in order to get more exposure, yeah, you have to use paid ads sometimes. But no, I don't think you can create an ad that will drive a lot of businesses and just they will see, oh my God, this ad is amazing. Let's work with this guy, sign a contract, send them money. This is not an impulsive purchase, guys. You have to create content. You have to speak about the company, use paid ads in order to just make your exposure way bigger, because we all know that organic exposure is limited. So we heard a lot of information. Thank you for your insights. In the end, I wanted to ask, what advice would you give to businesses looking for harness the power of data-driven marketing, but don't know where to start? Because I see a lot of people, times are changing rapidly, as we mentioned, and a lot of people just in the start of doing something new to their businesses, for starting a new business. And what's actionable strategy or tip you'd like to share with our listeners that they can implement in their businesses today? And how can you help all these people? Tell us, please.
Really, one thing I would suggest to businesses, which is typically overlooked for some reason, is if you're just starting out, or just starting in digital or whatever, instead of trying to say a lot, like to try to make like a very over-encumbered landing page or a homepage or a service page that tells about everything you do, like all you offer. So or trying to say that your product is amazing. It is. People will know it when they try it. So if you put your heart and soul into it, if you have an amazing team, if you know your stuff, you will create an amazing product. It will work. People will get to know you. But instead of trying to, as you said, persuade them, well, either with ads or like with your social media marketing, with your content, like this is an amazing brand, we're disruptive, we're blockchain, I pick your word,
AI, you
buzzword,
should
which
put AI in it, because
AI,
blockchain
yeah.
AI company, yeah.
Yeah. I'm still wishing for people to learn the distinction between ML, AI, and like neural networks. But no, it will come in
I
time.
still just want people to realize statistics existed before this era of
Yeah,
AI, and we kind of knew about this thing. It's just being marketed this way right now. Yeah. I
exactly.
agree. Sorry, yeah.
Oh yeah. And like in terms of advice, instead of trying to turn your brand sort of into a wannabe, show yourself. Show the amazing board that's behind this brand, show their expertise, show their years of experience, how you came up with this, and your struggles, your ups and downs. So be human, because to my mind, it works a lot better when there are faces and actual people, actual experts behind a project, and you see those experts working on it. And then by trusting people, you start to trust the product they're making, but it doesn't work vice versa. So I would say put people first, put yourself first, your team, educate them, grow, nurture, and show that. Should be at the core of your communication, at the core of your content, and at the core of how you're getting out there, and how basically your storytelling is built, is because that would make sense, at least from a human standpoint.
I think it's a great advice, because a lot of businesses are faceless. Like you see their website, you don't understand like is there a person behind this? But at the same time, some people overdo that. So guys, please stop with that rock star superhero topic. Just stop. It's outdated. Please. Maybe it was popular
Yeah.
a while ago, but stop doing these two topics. I just can't see it. George, thank you so much for being with us today. I will drop all the links about you in the description of this video or podcast you're listening to, so you could connect with George, and George could actually assist you in a lot of things in this field. So thank you for being with us. It's been very productive. I'm sure our audience will learn a lot from this video. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anton. It was a pleasure.